something strange is happening in trucking. While new rigs are getting smarter, keyeder, cleaner, and more expensive than ever, a lot of working truckers are looking backward, not forward. They are hunting for older pre-emission trucks, the kind built before diesel particulate filters, DEF systems, endless sensors, and dashboard warning lights that can turn a profitable week into a shop build. This is not just nostalgia. It is about control, uptime, simpler repairs, and engines that feel like they were built for miles, not software updates. So today, we are counting down 10 pre-emission trucks that explain why drivers are going back to the old school iron. Subscribe to Smart Buy Motors, because if you like trucks with real road reputation, honest mechanical character, and stories that actually matter to drivers, this is exactly where you want to be. Number 10. The first generation Volvo VNL. Some old school drivers still see Volvo as the quiet guy at the truck stop, but the early VNL deserves more respect than it gets. It was not the loudest, flashiest, or most chrome-heavy truck of its era, but that is exactly why many drivers liked it. It brought a smoother cab, better aerodynamics, and a more comfortable long-haul feel without diving into the modern emissions complexity that later trucks became known for. A pre-emission VNL with the right engine can feel like a smart working tool, not a museum piece. It is the kind of truck that appeals to drivers who want fewer headaches without giving up highway comfort. No, it does not have the cowboy presence of a long hood Pete, and no one buys one just to win a beauty contest at a diesel show. But for someone trying to run miles, sleep decently, keep fuel use reasonable, and avoid the drama of newer emission systems, the early VNL makes real-world sense. It represents one major reason truckers are going back. Not every old truck has to be rough, loud, and punishing. Some of them are old enough to be simpler, but modern enough to still feel livable. Number 9. The Sterling A9500. Sterling trucks never had the same romantic status as Peterbilt or Kenworth, and that is exactly why they can be interesting. The A9500 was the kind of truck that often lived a hard life in regional hauling, construction, dump work, and fleet service. It was not built to impress people at a diner parking lot. It was built to show up, pull, idle, get dusty, and come back again tomorrow. That work truck personality is why pre-emission Sterlings still catch the eye of practical buyers. They are usually less hyped than the big-name classics, which can mean better value if the truck has been maintained. The attraction is not luxury. It is simplicity, parts familiarity, and the feeling that the truck was engineered for working people instead of showroom photography. In a world where a newer truck can be sidelined by a sensor or emissions fault, an older Sterling can feel refreshingly direct. You diagnose the problem, fix the problem, and go back to work. It may not carry the legendary aura of a 379 or W900 style long hood, but that is part of its charm. It is the blue-collar pick on the list, and sometimes the smartest truck is not the one everyone is chasing. Number 8. The Ford LTL 9000. This is one of those trucks that reminds you how much character heavy-duty rigs used to have. The Ford LTL 9000 had a big, square-jowed presence, a proper long hood attitude, and the kind of mechanical straightforwardness that makes old truck fans stop and look twice. It came from an era when trucks were not trying to hide what they were. They were loud, firm, purposeful machines built around work first and polish second. For truckers going back to pre-emission iron, the LTL 9000 makes sense because it sits in that sweet spot of old-school capability and classic American truck identity. It can be a little more niche today, and that means buyers have to pay attention to condition, parts availability, and how the truck was used. But when one is right, it has a kind of honesty that newer equipment often lacks. There is no fake toughness here. The stance, the hood, the cab, the sound, the whole thing tells you this truck was designed in a time when durability was not a marketing slogan. It was expected. And for drivers tired of being at the mercy of complicated emissions equipment, that old Ford toughness has started to look less outdated and more like freedom. Number 7. The Mack CH613. The Mack CH613 is not the truck you buy if your goal is to look like a highway movie star. It is the truck you buy because you understand what Mack has always meant to a certain kind of driver: hard work, strong bones, and no-nonsense durability. The Mack CH613 became a familiar sight in regional hauling, vocational work, and fleets that needed something dependable rather than delicate. That is a major reason it fits this list so well. Pre-emission Mack trucks have a reputation for feeling tough in a way that is different from the big, long hood conventionals. They are not always glamorous, but they often feel planted, serious, and built around the job. The CH613 can be especially appealing to owner-operators who want an older truck that still feels useful rather than just collectible. It has enough road manners to work, enough strength to earn respect, and enough mechanical simplicity to avoid some of the expensive emissions headaches that push drivers away from newer trucks in the first place. The appeal is not about pretending the CH613 is perfect. It is about knowing what it is. A tough, practical Mack from a time when trucks were allowed to be trucks, and that is exactly why many drivers still trust them. Number 6. The International 9400i. The 9400i is one of those trucks that does not always get the loudest praise, but it keeps showing up wherever real freight is being moved. That tells you something. International built the 9400i as a serious highway tractor, and in pre-emission form, it became a favorite for drivers who wanted a conventional truck with strong long-haul capability, good parts, familiarity, and a cab that could handle actual working life. It is not as romantic as a Peterbilt 379, and it is not as instantly iconic as a classic Kenworth. But the 9400i has a very strong argument. It can be a lot of truck for the money. That matters. When truckers talk about going back to pre-emission rigs, they are not always talking about buying the most collectible truck on the lot. They are talking about buying something that can run, pull, be serviced, and not destroy the business with electronic emissions problems. The 9400i fits that mentality. It feels like a tool designed for people who count downtime and lost dollars. If you want classic long-haul usefulness without chasing the most inflated badge, the 9400i is one of the smartest names in the conversation. Number 5. The Western Star 4900. The Western Star 4900 has always had a slightly different personality. It is not just a highway truck. It has that heavy-duty, overbuilt, worksite-ready confidence that makes it feel tougher than the average road tractor. That is why pre-emission examples are so appealing to drivers who need a truck that can do more than glide down the interstate. The 4900 has been respected in vocational, logging, heavy haul, and severe duty environments, and that kind of reputation does not happen by accident. It is the truck for someone who wants old-school mechanical strength with a premium, almost custom truck feel. Compared with some fleet-spec rigs, a Western Star can feel more substantial, more serious, and more personal. In the pre-emission world, that matters because buyers are not just chasing fewer sensors, they are chasing trucks that feel worth rebuilding, worth maintaining, and worth keeping. The 4900 gives you that feeling. It has presence without needing to shout, and capability without acting fragile. For drivers who want a truck that still feels like a machine rather than an appliance, the Western Star 4900 is one of the strongest reasons the old iron keeps pulling people back. Number 4. The Kenworth T600. The T600 is one of the most important trucks in this entire discussion because it proves that old school does not always mean square, blunt, and fuel-hungry. When the T600 arrived, its aerodynamic design looked unusual to traditionalists, but over time, truckers learned that function matters. A pre-emission T600 gives drivers something very valuable: a simpler, older platform with a more efficient shape than many classic long-hood trucks. That combination is exactly why it still makes sense. You get the practical benefits of an older diesel without completely ignoring fuel economy and highway manners. It may not have the same intimidating face as a W900 style hood, but the T600 earned respect because it worked. It was a truck built for long miles, fleet use, owner-operators, and drivers who cared about operating cost. In today's market, that makes it especially relevant. New trucks are expensive, emissions repairs can be brutal, and fuel still matters every single day. The T600 answers that problem with quiet intelligence. It is not the loudest truck in the ranking, but it may be one of the most logical. For a driver who wants pre-emission simplicity without driving a brick through the wind, the Kenworth T600 is a seriously compelling choice. Number 3. The Kenworth T800. If the T600 is the smart aerodynamic choice, the T800 is the tougher brother that shows up wearing work boots. This truck has one of the strongest reputations in the heavy-duty world because it can fit so many jobs. Highway hauling, construction, heavy equipment, dump work, logging, regional freight, and just about anything that punishes a weak chassis. That versatility is exactly why pre-emission T800s are so desirable. They are not just old trucks people buy for nostalgia, they are useful old trucks. A good T800 feels like it was built with extra margin, as if Kenworth knew somebody was going to overload it, bounce it through rough places, and still expect it to start in the morning. That is the kind of reputation truckers remember. It also gives the T800 a strong second life, because many older units are worth rebuilding instead of replacing. In a newer truck, a serious emissions problem can make the whole machine feel like a financial trap. In a pre-emission T800, the thinking is different. Fix it, maintain it, and keep earning. It is not always cheap to buy a good one because the market knows what they are. But that demand says everything. The T800 is one of the clearest examples of why truckers are going back to older rigs. Strength, simplicity, and usefulness never go out of style. Number 2. The Peterbilt 359. The 359 is where the conversation starts to feel less like transportation and more like legend. This is one of the trucks that shaped the image of the American long-haul rig. Long hood, tall stacks, polished metal, proud stance, and a presence that newer aero trucks simply cannot imitate. But the 359 is not on this list just because it looks good. It represents a generation of trucks that drivers could understand. You could hear them, feel them, work on them, and build a relationship with them. That sounds dramatic until you talk to people who actually lived in trucks like this. The 359 came from a time when the driver felt connected to the machine. And that connection is a big part of why pre-emission trucks have such a hold on the industry. Of course, a 359 today is not always the most practical choice for everyone. Clean examples can be expensive, and older trucks require real maintenance, not wishful thinking. But the appeal is powerful. It is rebuildable, recognizable, and respected everywhere it goes. For many truckers, going back to a 359 is not about avoiding the future. It is about choosing a machine with soul, value, and mechanical honesty. That is something no software update can create. Number 1. The Peterbilt 379. If there's one truck that perfectly explains why truckers are going back to pre-emission rigs, it is the Peterbilt 379. This truck sits right at the center of the argument. It has the classic long hood look, the owner-operator prestige, the highway presence, the rebuildable personality, and, in the right pre-emission years, the simplicity that so many drivers are chasing today. The 379 is not just admired because it is pretty. It is admired because it feels like a truck built for people who plan to keep it. Drivers love the visibility over the hood, the traditional cab feel, the customization potential, and the way a clean 379 can still command respect at any truck stop in America. Mechanics know them. Parts support is strong. The aftermarket is massive. And the truck has become one of the strongest symbols of the pre-emission comeback because it checks the emotional box and the practical box at the same time. Is it always the cheapest way to move freight? No. Is it always the most fuel efficient? Also no. But for many truckers, that is not the whole equation. They want a truck they can understand, repair, personalize, and trust. The 379 gives them that. It is the machine that makes modern trucks look advanced, but not always better. And that is why pre-emission trucks are not fading away quietly. They are being hunted, rebuilt, protected, and put back to work because drivers are tired of feeling like the truck is controlled by systems they cannot fix on the side of the road. New trucks have advantages, but old trucks have something powerful: mechanical confidence. Subscribe to Smart Buy Motors for more real truck rankings, and tell us which pre-emission rig you would put at number 1.